Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Visually Hidden Podcast. I'm Peter O'Brien, and joining me again today is Mr. Stephen Bendler.
Hello.
And Mademoiselle Anne Milleville.
Bonjour, hi.
So we're coming up on the holidays here, and I thought today maybe we would just discuss, some holiday stories, some holiday approaches to stories, or some approaches to holiday stories. I know that everybody loves a horror movie, and those are always associated with Halloween. And I guess Halloween, October is really kind of sort of the unofficial start to the holiday season, because from Halloween, then it's just kind of a mad sprint to the end of the year. Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. And I always kind of feel like Thanksgiving is like the hurdle that everybody jumps over in that sprint. Thanksgiving is just sort of there, and it's in between Halloween, which has all the decorations and the costume and the candy and the celebration and all the horror movies. And then we just want to get to Christmas as soon as possible because there's more decorations and there's more celebration and there's presents and there's candies and there's baked goods and there's ugly sweaters and there's music and it's just like amplified. So I feel like Thanksgiving usually kind of gets the shaft when it comes to holidays and celebrations. And personally, Thanksgiving is probably my favorite holiday.
Yeah, it does get overlooked, and my wife and I talk about that all the time. So we try to, pick up some decorations when we see some cool stuff and try to support the cause.
And in Europe, you guys don't have Thanksgiving, but you do have Black Friday.
Yeah, we like to do shopping, So yeah, we have Black Friday, but it's not associated to a celebration. It's just to prepare Christmas.
The second Thanksgiving is over, we just move right into Christmas shopping, holiday season, Christmas shopping. And I don't know. I was really upset a few years ago when they started moving Black Friday into Thanksgiving.
Yeah. And it's like you finish eating, you wipe your mouth, and then you roll yourself down to the nearest store to pick up a deal.
When I was younger, I used to work in retail, and we had to be up at like 4 a.m. to be at the store for opening at 6. And then people just come like herding in. And it's like, what's wrong with our society, our community, and I remember like I would see on the news people would trample people at Walmart. Like they would like knock down the doors and like crush employees who are just getting paid dick to like be treated with like abuse already. And now like they're in the hospital with like no medical.
Yeah.
So 'tis the season, I guess. I don't know what kind of message that sends. I do feel though that the holiday season is a pretty interesting and fun time, even if you don't celebrate all of the holidays.
I don't know. I get excited for, definitely for Halloween. I get super excited for Christmas. I love Thanksgiving. I like Thanksgiving because it's a nice break between all the Halloween decorations and all the Christmas decorations. It's like, okay, we put up a couple things and then, it is what it is, but the focus is the meal and who you're having over and who you're spending it with. And so I focus on it as, hey, this is a day to spend with the people closest to me that I care about.
Yeah, I love Christmas. It's my favorite period of time because even if I hate winter, I hate cold. But during Christmas, first of all, you have the Christmas illumination. I think it's beautiful. I live in Paris, so I have the Champs-Élysées with many lights. It's something you should see once in your life. And that's the moment of the year that you can take time for you, for your friend, your family. You can look in the eyes of someone you like and tell them that you like them. It's the only moment of the year you take time for that. So I don't know. I love this moment of the year. You eat a lot and I love eating. The worst time for diet. But yeah, I love this period of time. And I also like Easter. It's another moment of the year you can spend with your friends and family and eat again. So yeah, I love those two moments. But we have things we celebrate. I don't know if you celebrate them in America. Like, for example, we have the Music Day. It's a big thing in France. It's on the June 21st. Mm-hmm. But for us, vacation are really, really important because I don't know if you know, but we have at least 5 weeks per year of vacation. It's the minimum you have when you work, 5 weeks. So we have lots of time. We know we are like privileged to have so much weeks. Not every country has that. So we love spending time on vacation. So summertime is the best period of the year for French people. we all take lots of time on vacation during summer.
Very interesting. 5 weeks of vacation. That's pretty, and that's the minimum.
That's the minimum, yeah. When I was working, I had my sister has 9 weeks. I had 6 weeks. So yeah, 5 weeks is really the minimum you can get, and we have many day off also for war celebrations. Or I mean, you have them too, like November 11th, May 8th. We celebrate those days, and we don't work those days to celebrate war victories.
So life is one big holiday over there in Paris.
They value human life over there, apparently
Yeah.
exponentially more than they do in this country.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Okay. I think we've just outed France as a target for enjoyment and pleasure. So don't be surprised if you see all 5 of our listeners showing up there to spend their holidays. I've said before my favorite holiday is Thanksgiving because one, I don't have to decorate. I don't have to buy anything. I don't have to like deal with presents or gifts or covert parental operations or answering awkward questions to other people like what do I want? I don't want anything. I just want to wake up and be thankful that I woke up and I just want to have a nice meal with the people I care about. So Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday. This past week has been pretty spectacular. It's really been nice. With that though, comes downtime, right? Whenever you're on a holiday, there's always downtime. And whenever you're spending time at home, there's downtime. I mean, of course, there's plenty of things to do, but when you're spending time with your family, you're spending time with your family. And part of that is watching movies.
We don't spend time watching movies in family during the winter time. As I said, it's really a time for us to spend with family, and we eat during that time. So in regular time in France, we take 2 hours to eat. But for during Christmas, Christmas and winter, we can take the whole afternoon eating. Really, you start at 11:30 and you leave, it's 8 p.m., and you were just around the table talking and eating. So we don't really take time to watch movies together. When you're a kid, yeah, of course, with your parents you can watch a Disney movie or something like that. But I think that's the reason why we don't have really very famous French movies, because we don't spend that time to watch movies.
Once again, you value human life and the human experience more than us gluttonous Americans who just, shovel the food in and then go watch a movie.
Yeah.
There are not a lot of Thanksgiving films or Thanksgiving related films. There are films that kind of feature it a little bit in the background, or it's like a passing moment in time, like Rocky. Rocky begins like around Thanksgiving, but then it goes through and the main event is like on New Year's. So it's not exactly a holiday movie, although it takes place in and around the holidays. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, though, that's one that I watched a lot when I was a kid, and then I rediscovered as an adult. And I feel like that's one that you might enjoy, Anne, because yes, it is technically a Thanksgiving film, but the Thanksgiving element is very removed. It's more about the camaraderie that develops between these two kind of odd couple characters as they make their way home for the holidays. It stars Steve Martin and John Candy. It's just really, really hilarious. Just the situations they find themselves in. Of course, both of their reactions and their characters. Oh my God, it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, definitely. I recommend checking it out. Like I liked it when I first saw it, and that's what made me buy it. And then, sometimes you just don't get back to something for a while. I was like, you know what? Today's the day, and we're gonna watch it now. And I watched it with my mom, my brother, my kids. We laughed. We all had a good time with it, so it was nice.
What did your kids gravitate towards during? Because I remember when I watched it as a kid, I was like, oh, well, yeah, like I see that it's funny, but like I didn't know that I was actually getting all of the jokes. And I watched it because Steve Martin was in The Three Amigos, and
Well,
I knew that.
that's
And
it.
John Candy, of course, was everywhere and everywhere, anywhere, all at once. He was just amazing. And so I watched it because I recognized the guys.
Yeah.
But then as I'm watching it as an adult, it's like all of these other actors are popping up.
Hmm.
Dylan Baker is in there. Michael McKean is in
Yeah.
there. Just all of these great faces, all of these character actors are just like sprinkled throughout their journey. Edie McClure, of course,
Mhm.
as the car rental lady who really gets the riot act read to her.
God, I love her. She's so good. But yeah, to answer your question, my girls walked in the room and they're like, "Hey, he's from the Amigos." You know,
Mhm.
my daughters are massive, massive Three Amigos fans. I can't overstate that enough.
And there's one Thanksgiving film in particular, and I mentioned this to Anne during the week. And Steve, I wanted to know if you have ever seen Home for the Holidays.
No, I haven't seen it. I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
This is probably like the quintessential Thanksgiving film. It, in my opinion, perfectly captures the typical American experience of Thanksgiving as a holiday and as a family holiday in America. It stars Holly Hunter, Robert Downey Jr., Anne Bancroft, Charles Durning, Steve Gutenberg's in there,
Hey,
Dylan McDermott. It just has a crazy, crazy little cast. It's directed by Jodie Foster. Yes, that Jodie Foster.
interesting.
1995, and it is really a lot of fun. Oh, Claire Danes is sprinkled in there as well. So, it if you have not seen it, I highly recommend Home for the Holidays.
Well,
It's
that's a
just yeah,
stellar
it's
cast.
one yeah, well, and it's really well delivered too. Like cast aside, the story is good. Geraldine Chaplin, Charlie Chaplin's daughter is in
Okay.
there. So, it's really a pretty good one for the holidays. I feel like it's a little overlooked and underrated, but I'm just gonna make it part of my crusade along with Jaws 4 to just bring it to the people
I'll
and
check
get
it
it
out.
out there.
There's one other Thanksgiving movie that I used to own. This is so shit. I have the case, but the movie itself has disappeared. I don't know. That never happens to me. I think someone might have stolen it from me, to be quite honest, because I don't lose
What's the
movies.
movie?
Pieces of April with Katie Holmes.
Oh.
It's Oliver Platt's in that. Uh, Patricia Clarkson's in that, so it's got a good cast. It's a comedy drama, family stuff. I thought it was quite good, and I saw it in the theater and I liked it enough to buy it, and I did. And then, like I said, someone has robbed me. It's gone
Mhm.
missing.
So it's part of that Thanksgiving film potluck that we're presenting. Okay,
Yeah,
Pieces of April. Yeah, I've heard of it. I have not seen that one. It's on my list though, because as I was like looking for stuff to watch, you always get it into your mind too. It's like, oh, it's Halloween, I got to watch horror movies. Oh, it's Christmas, I got to watch, holiday movies, not necessarily Christmas movies, but it's like that season, that
yeah.
winter holiday season.
Mhm.
And yeah, again, it's just kind of like Christmas. Christmas is a little bit of a bully, honestly, when it comes to the holidays and holiday season. I'm just going to say it. It kind of muscles out these other smaller holidays and it overshadows Thanksgiving, which is probably the most important holiday, at least in America.
It's the same in France. Mm. We have many TV movies. I guess you have because most of them are Americans or Canadians, so I guess you have them. But from mid-November to the end of December, we have TV Christmas TV movies all afternoon on quite every channel. And we have Mariah Carey song all the time. So yeah, it's the same here.
Mariah Carey. Yeah, they unleash her.
That villainy knows no bounds. It crosses international waters, apparently.
Yeah, she's like Godzilla coming out.
Yeah.
Instead of radiation and fire, she's just shooting out like pitch perfect notes across the land.
The other tradition we have in my house is we start the day by watching the Thanksgiving Day parade. You got to do that. We'll be cooking, cleaning, last minute, whatever is while the parade is on. And then if there's something I want to see, like this year, Back to the Future, the musical did a number. So I ran in to see that. And then I went back to cooking.
Okay. Yeah, the parade, I don't know. I caught some of it this year because I was busy doing stuff, but my kids were checking it out a little bit here and there and we just had it on in the background and honestly, like I don't think I have anything really nice to say about it, so maybe I should just say nothing at
Well, no,
all.
it's definitely not what it used to be. It's come down a couple notches. It's not. It's pretty bad, and it's more habit at this point. I want to see the balloons, and everyone else could shut up.
It seemed very superficial and very phony, right down to the commentators. And Jimmy Fallon, he can just take a long walk off a short pier, in my opinion.
Maybe because I'm a foreigner in your country, but I spent a year in New York, and I love the fact that you have parades for Thanksgiving, for Christmas, and I think for Halloween also. I'm not sure about Halloween, but anyway, you have parades to gather people together and to feel the moment. And I thought it was really magical for me. For me, really, I don't have that every year. Of course, maybe
No,
the fact that you have it every year, you don't like it because it blocks the street and everything. I understand that, but for a foreigner, it's something
oh no,
magical.
no, we love it.
Oh, okay.
No, you're 100% right. We agree with you. We love the
Oh,
parade.
because you felt, I felt like you were like bored about it. So, but okay, okay.
It was awesome back in the day. Now it sucks. Like, the quality is not good. We want it to be like it used to be when we were kids because it was great.
The idea of a parade is awesome and a lot of fun because, yeah, it does bring people together. But the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade specifically is like an overexposed spectacle that just does not live up to its legacy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's a little sad making, actually. I was a little disappointed on Thanksgiving when I would walk by or hear something from the parade. It's like, oh,
Yeah, my kids just leave the room. It's like, I want it to be as cool as it once was, and it's not. And I don't know why that is. And even some of the balloons were awesome, I feel like, when I was a kid. And I've been down to the parade a bunch of times. And as an adult, the last time I went, Jesus, a long time ago, but when Tim Burton had a balloon in the parade, I made sure I was down there to see that thing. And that was awesome. But the balloons are just not as cool. Like, it's like entertainment nowadays sucks, and everyone else that was cool is pretty much gone or on the way out, and then I'm not happy about it. But alas, here
It's
we are.
because
and joining us again here today is Mr. Grinch.
it's
I
because we're
want good
getting
stuff,
old, you
man.
know. I think it's because we're getting old. Because if you ask your parents, they would say the same about things you thought were awesome when you were a teenager, and you know it's always like that. Because I had this conversation with a friend recently about a book that just came out, and I read it, and I was like, my God, it's not literature, it's bullshit. But apparently, it's a bestseller now. So you know, it's the way things evolve, you know. So for me, we're near 40 years old, so that's something we can question. But when you get old, when you get older, I think you feel like new things are bullshit. I feel that way. So yeah, that's a generation issue, you know. So
I see some of these holiday movies that come out, and I'm like, I'll give this a shot. And I put it on. I'm like, what the hell am I watching? It's like, pick a lane, man, and stick to it. It's like, holiday movies usually have some kind of message, right? What is your message? What do you want to say? And usually, what people want to say is nothing of any great importance, or stuff that's already been done. Like, so you have to, for me, if I'm going to watch a holiday film, I want to see a unique take on something.
Well, you yourself have written or co-written a holiday play.
Yes.
And so now what was your approach to that?
My buddy approached me about it. He said, hey, I want to write a show about Santa Claus having to cancel Christmas. And then they put on a telethon to raise money to save Christmas. That was what was pitched to me 13 years ago. I was like, all right, well, how do we do that? Because Santa Claus, he's been done to death. And there's been so many different actors that play him in different variations. That was my essential thought. I was like, okay, well, if we're going to do this, what are we trying to say? What's our spin? What's our take on it? What can we bring to the table that people haven't seen before? And that's where I started my thought process. And so, coming up with some of the characters and some of the plot points, I want the audience to walk away with that warm feeling you have after you see a really good Christmas movie. You know, really warm sensation. But I want them to laugh, and I think that's what we've reached. It's something that's oddball and off the wall, but yet heartwarming and familiar. And I think that's what these types of stories need. You need to have the heartwarming, but then you need
Mhm.
something interesting, something different, something to bring the people in.
Yeah, I've written a feature-length Christmas script that has not yet been produced, but that was kind of my approach too, but I had a slightly different angle into it. It's based on some actual events, and it's based partly on a short story I had written that was like kind of a joke, but then I spun it into like a dramatic point in this story. But one of the things that I liked about taking on a holiday story was taking on the approach to writing it, which is don't necessarily think of it as a holiday story.
Yeah.
Use it as just kind of a backdrop or a way to tell an interesting story. Don't make it like the focal point of the character's experience. They should be experiencing this either way. My two inspirations were National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation and A Christmas Story, because they're both primarily composed of little vignettes. There are these little scenes sprinkled around like the month of December that lead up to a Christmas culmination. And that's kind of the structure and approach that I wanted to take with my story, where it's like I have this family and I have all these different situations that lead up to the climax at Christmas time. So it's not necessarily set on Christmas Day. It's not exactly like Home Alone, where there's a very clear through line of like, okay, these are the events of these like couple of days. It's more of like a experience. So my script actually, it starts on Thanksgiving night and it goes through to Christmas night. So it's that whole time period in between and how this family interacts with each other, and then the hurdles that the main characters have to overcome in their own pursuits.
No, you're right. You have to, I think when you focus too much on, well, it's a Christmas movie. Yeah, it is, but there has to be something else. There has to be some other element. Yeah, Christmas is going to happen no matter what. That day is going to come. You can't stop time. But what else is going on in the story? What's going on with the characters? What's their situation? And get to the heart of that. I always say the key to anything is always good characters and good writing. If you have, if it's video games, comic books, cartoons, wrestling, Broadway, whatever it is, good writing and good characters will get the audience invested. And if they care about that stuff, if you make mistakes along the way, it'll be forgivable because the core of what you have is real. You can tell right away from a trailer, like, oh, they're looking for a payday here. But then if it's something that you're inclined to go see in the theater, I think that's like you're intrigued now. You're like, they did something here, and I want to see what it is.
I wanted to talk about a film we really love in France. It's the most broadcasted movie in France, but I'm quite sure you never heard about it. The title is Le Père Noël est une ordure. The translation is Santa Claus is a stinker. And this movie is really is really famous in France. Every year you have it on TV, and every year it's a pleasure to watch it again. It's very funny, and it's really pleasant to watch it when you're a kid and to watch it as an adult, because it's a completely different sense. When you're a kid, it's funny to see a guy with the Santa Claus costume, and you have funny situation. He falls down, blah blah blah, and that's more a funny movie for the situation itself. But when you're an adult, it's actually a quite sad story. It's a very old couple taking care of phone assistance line. I don't know how you call it. People who are alone for Christmas, and they need to talk to someone, and someone answered the phone. I don't know how you call that. It's a assistance line. Oh, I don't know.
Like a hotline, a helpline, self-help line,
Helpline,
or
okay. And so yeah, it's about that. It's about people alone for Christmas. So it's very fantastic movie, because you can have the funny part when you're a kid, and you see the reality of it when you're an adult. And I think that's the reason of the success of this movie. So if you have the occasion to watch it in English, I don't know if you can find it in English, but if you have the occasion, do it, because it's a fabulous movie. It was made in 1982, and it's still a success nowadays.
1982, and it's Santa Claus is a stinker?
Yeah, in English, the translation. And the director is Jean-Marie Poiret. Very French.
Yeah, what is the French name again? Can you say it a little bit slowly for the
Sure.
French impaired?
Le Père Noël est une ordure.
Okay, I got it. I'm not going to repeat it, but I got it. Our VHS selection this week was It's a Wonderful Life. And if you've ever seen It's a Wonderful Life, I mentioned in the VHS video that it's known as a Christmas story, but the Christmas backdrop is really just used to heighten the drama that's going on within the story. You could take this Christmas element out of the story and it would still be good, but because it's set in and around Christmas, there's something psychologically that happens to people where just it heightens it. It elevates it. Maybe it's elevated holiday.
Oh God.
Did we just discover a new a new subgenre there?
Well, Jesus, I
Elevated
hope not.
holiday?
I hope not. Hang me next to the mistletoe then, if that's the case.
As far as Christmas movies go, there's usually the Santa Claus story, or there's the present story, or there's the family story, or there's like the love story. There's only so many holiday stories, it seems.
Mhm.
And that's one of the reasons why I think films that break that mold or break that tradition are celebrated a little bit more or remembered a little bit more, because it kind of breaks away from the pack. Like Home Alone
Mhm.
breaks away from the pack. I mean, it has like those family elements in it, but the story of the little boy and the burglars and everything, it just takes it in a different direction where it's almost like Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
A Christmas Carol, of course, has a supernatural element. It's almost a Christmas ghost story, and it's been repurposed so many times in so many different ways, whether it's the Muppets or Bill Murray or Mickey Mouse. Like, it's a universal story that has so much appeal at its core that
Yeah.
you can drop all these different characters or popular culture references into it and it still works because the story at its core is very unique. It's a Wonderful Life, which, as I said, is one of my, if not my favorite film of all time, but I've seen it in the theater quite a few times. They usually play it around Christmas time. And I remember one year I took my wife to see it, and she had never really watched it. Big screen, classic theater. I believe it was the theater where we filmed Misery Loves Company, the Paramount Theater in Middletown, New York.
Nice.
Great, grand old theater. You can see it in the film. And that's where I took her to see It's a Wonderful Life. And we're watching the movie. And if you've never seen It's a Wonderful Life, you should really stop the podcast right now, go watch it, and then come back and listen, because we're going to be talking about it explicitly. I don't want to ruin the experience for you. So you've been warned. We're going to continue now. I took her to see it, and you guys have seen the movie. It has a lot of emotional weight in it.
Yeah.
And my wife, she's a little bit of a pushover when it comes to emotional stuff. She's like, she gets really invested. Like we watched the trailer for War Horse, the Steven Spielberg movie. And she had tears in her eyes. She turned to me at the end of the trailer and she's like, that horse better not die. And I was like, okay, well, if it dies, it dies.
Oh,
Like,
Drago. If it dies, it dies.
yeah,
Oh, jeez.
I don't mean to get all Drago on you, but like that's the story, and I can't change that. So we'll see what happens. Let's go check it out.
Come on.
But so I took her to see It's a Wonderful Life in the movie theater, and like I had seen it, a few times up to that point, but this was the first time I saw it in the movie theater. So I was really excited to share that experience with her. And like, so out of the corner of my eye, I'm like kind of watching her, and she's just sitting there like stone faced. And I'm like, what did it break her? Like, what happened? Like, she's like, can we go? And I was like, yeah, like, so we get up and we file out. And the second the door of the car closed, it was like Niagara
Oh,
Falls fell out of her face.
Did she finish the film, or you left before the end?
No. We finished the
Oh,
film,
okay.
but we usually like wait for like the theater to clear.
Okay, yeah.
And she wanted to just get up and go because she needed to go and let all of this emotion just pour out of her soul in private.
Mhm.
Yeah, we sat in the parking lot for like a good like 5 minutes while she like recomposed herself after seeing this film, and that was the response I was expecting, but she was strong enough to hold it together. So I know that the first time I saw it, I was just kind of like blown away. Like my mind was like, it was almost Twilight Zone-esque, but like in a cheerful kind of way.
Mhm.
And I was familiar with the story from cartoons and television shows. Like they've repurposed this story approach a number of times where you get to show the character what their life would be like had they never existed. Like that's kind of like an old thing now, but it kind of comes from this
Mhm.
starting point. And so to see the original presentation was just very, very impactful and very, very strong. And so I remember like when I first saw it, I was like, wow. And of course, the performances just take it to another level. I mean, James Stewart, he's one of the all-time greatest in the field of acting, at least in my opinion. I love that guy. I'll watch anything with him. And this, I believe, is, probably his strongest performance. It's just there's so much going on with his particular character, and to balance it and to do it in such a genuine and sincere way. I can't say enough nice things about it. I talked enough in the video about it. I want to hear what you guys have to say. So let's start with Anne.
So before I first watched it, I never heard of it. Maybe it's not as famous as it is in your country. I don't know, because we know James Stewart, so I was surprised I didn't hear about this movie before. But yeah, I first watched it, and I agree with you. I was blown away by this movie. Just the beginning of it, you don't expect that. It's really original. Maybe I won't spoil too much, but you have a conversation between, I guess, God and an angel. And that's something you don't really see, especially in those old movies. I watched it in black and white. I don't know if it's really impact to see it in color or not, but I always watched it in black and white. And anyway, at the end of the movie, I was exactly as your wife. I cried, I cried. And when I rewatched it to prepare this podcast, I thought I wouldn't cry because I knew the end, but actually I cried again. So yeah, this movie, you really feel for this guy, you really feel for George Bailey, because you can identify. I think many people can identify between between your living your dreams and doing your duties. Especially when it's related to your family, you feel like responsible. You have to take over the family business or things like that, and you see the time going by, and yeah, you feel like you're not living your dreamed life, and it's too late. But I mean, many people can relate to that. So yeah, this movie is really powerful, even if it was done in the 40s, I think, in 46. And you watch it now, and it speaks to you. It still talks to you. So yeah, very powerful movie.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. This is another one of those movies from WPIX. Every holiday season, it's the commercial starts with him running down the street in the snow, yelling "Merry Christmas," and I've seen chunks of it over the years because when I was a kid, it didn't interest me. It just didn't. And I had seen, like I said, chunks, and then with all the influence it's had on other properties, I felt like between the commercials and what I'd seen and the influence on other films and shows, I felt like I'd seen the movie before. And I think that's probably why I was like, oh, I kind of know what happens. Like, what's the point? It's been ruined for me, indirectly ruined for me. So there was never an urgency for me to go out and seek it out and to watch it. And then I was glad that you had it on the list of things on VHS selects, because I was like, you know what, now I have to watch it now for this conversation, and I'm so glad that I did think it was great. I mean, Jimmy Stewart's the man. I mean, no matter how you slice it. I did feel, when he comes out of what he thinks is Martini's bar, but it's really Nick's bar. There was a definite Twilight Zone feel to it, which I always appreciate. Um, I had a question though. I was like wondering, like Bert and Ernie. I'm like, is that where Jim Henson got the inspiration for Bert and Ernie? These two characters? I'm gonna have to go look that up now. Um,
Mm.
that's a whole side note though. But yeah, I love. Even though I knew I'm much like Anne. Even though I knew the little girl's gonna say the line, and there's that close up shot of them, that medium of them in front of the tree. I knew, like, oh, here it comes. I still got misty eyed. I knew it was coming. But when you think about the impact that you have in someone's life, or you stop to think about it, it's a profound thing. You don't realize. I think that's a it's we're talking a lot about different things here today, and I think one of the through lines that we haven't really mentioned directly is reminders, right? Sometimes we always need a reminder about something, even though we know it. We need a reminder of it. They say death is like one of the great reminders. You go to a funeral, you mean, oh my God, so much I want to do and accomplish. And I don't say I love you to certain people enough and this and that. And I think that's why holiday movies are, like you said, Pete, it's kind of like a reset your brain, recalibrate you, kind of zero in on, yeah, there's a lot of, there's parades and there's merchandise and there's gifts and there's decorations and there's all this other stuff. But the core of it is is people, is your relationships, what's important to you, um, who is important to you. What are your values? What do you hold dear? And I think every once in a while, life has a way of kind of beating you down sometimes, or just distracting you or keeping you occupied. And these movies, and I think these stories, and there's a couple essential ones like we've spoken about, like your Christmas carols, It's a Wonderful Life. I think they stand the test of time because they are the sole reminders of what's important, and that you mean something to somebody, and you might not realize it. You don't know that you're important to somebody or to something. And yeah, I think that carries weight far beyond what we could possibly imagine sometimes. And I think that's the secret sauce, if you will. That's the missing element in a lot of the films that come out nowadays. Is It's a Wonderful Life got it right. And because it got it so right, that's why it's duplicated and ripped off, and been paid homage to in a lot of different films and things. And I think now seeing It's a Wonderful Life in its entirety, cover to cover, I got to say the influence, the reach is deeper than I realized, and I think that's kind of a cool thing. Yeah, I'm glad that I saw it. I also watched it in black and white upon Pete's recommendation, and my son was watching it with me for a while until he fell asleep, but he was enjoying it also.
When George comes home and he's had like that bad day, he can't find the $8,000, and then he's yelling at his family, he's yelling at his
Mhm.
kids, and he's like kicking up his workstation in the living room there, and he like turns and apologizes to his family. It's like just him doing that, and then seeing the effect of his kids witnessing that.
Mhm.
Oh man,
Yeah.
who wants to be in that position, and who hasn't been in that position? So again, it just kind of connects you. It's like not specifically to those actions, but who hasn't been witnessed at their worst
Yeah.
by the people who they care about the most. It's just stripping away the specifics of the story and the layers, and it's making it into more applicable human connections. I think is one thing that this film does really well, and that James Stewart does specifically very well. He is just very, very believable.
Yeah, I'm glad that I saw this movie at my current age, because I think, not that I wouldn't have appreciated it at a younger age, but the fact that I also have four children. Two of them are boys, two of them are girls, and it was very much my life. It hit some notes, there, and like I said, you could see why it's so copied, revisited, however you want to look at it. And that's when you've hit the core of something really profound, I think.
I think the word you're looking for is it resonates.
Yeah, you're right.
It goes
Yeah.
out and it goes on and it goes beyond.
As any person, we have dreams, and sometimes life makes that we don't follow our dreams, but you still have them in mind. And especially during this time of the year in Christmas, sometimes you see friends and family who are living their dreams, and you can feel a bit of envy. But yeah, and you think of what you could have done that you didn't do. But yeah, that's why I related a lot to this character. And what I liked in this movie is that you relate to him for the worst moments when he's about to commit suicide. I'm not encouraging a suicide, of course, but I mean, you feel that it's hopeless. He couldn't find a good solution. So you understand that he wants to jump from that bridge. But you also relate when he comes back to reality after the angel tricked him with a life without him. When he comes back to his family, the pleasure he has to just embrace his kids. You, even if I don't have kids, you relate to the fact that okay, you have problems in your life, you're struggling with many things, but you are loved, you have a family, you have a roof for the time being. You can eat every day, and not every person can. So just be happy with what you have, and maybe something good is gonna happen. And it happens thanks to his wife, because we didn't talk about his wife, but actually she's really important in the movie, because from the beginning she's the only one to understand him, really. Even if he's close to his mom, you
Mhm.
understand that the only character who understand him from the beginning to the end, it's his wife, and the solution comes from her. And when you see that a life without him, she never got married, I think it's also really touching, to to have this story about her. Of course, it's about George Bailey, but her character is so important in the story.
Well, I think it's about both of them. I think you meet them pretty much at the same time. I mean, you see the scene at the pond, the frozen pond in the beginning, but when he goes to work, she's there, right? So she's there for him from the very beginning, and she tells him she's going to love him forever. And I think that's it's such an
Wonderful.
interesting parallel to see because yeah,
Exactly.
because he even when he's attracted to her, he wants to be with her, he still has in his mind what he wants to accomplish with his life and what he wants to do and go and see and be, and he tries to push her away as much as he can, but he can't. It's so I think it's like she saves him in a way, you know, just as much as Clarence does. When they're going through the time where the bank's closed and everyone wants their money back, and she offers up their vacation fund, their wedding fund, their wedding fund to the crowd. He's right there. She tries to show him the magic that could be with the house if they put a little effort into it. So I think she's the one, um, like I said, just as much as Clarence, who does the saving. And then when he goes, he sees life without him in it, and he sees what Mary's become. I think he can't take that. That's it's too much for him. And I think this goes back to what I was saying before. Is like when you care about the characters so much, when you're so invested and you're so involved with the character, um, the slightest thing will make you weep, or the slightest thing will make you feel like you said. And you don't have any children, but you understand, because you care about George so deeply. When you see when he hugs them, or he squeezes, holds on to them, you feel that, because um you want George to succeed, you want George to be happy, essentially. So I think when the character's been written so well and performed magnificently, you can't help but feel those things, and it kind of just comes off the screen and kind of grabs you and holds on to you, and then that's a success.
George and Mary are definitely like kindred spirits. They can't exist separately from one another. There's just circumstances and events that keep bringing them back until finally they do connect. And once they're together, they are a unit, And so while George comes home and he has a bad day and he's yelling at the kids and yelling at the teacher on the phone, and Mary is the one keeping the cool level head, and she's apologizing, and she's like, okay, yeah, something is wrong with George. George is like past his
Hmm.
his breaking point. Okay, how can I help? How can I salvage this? Like, because again, if you go back to the beginning, like she breaks the window in the house, she makes her wish. And of course, we all know what her wish
Yeah.
is. She doesn't say what it is, but we know just from watching it and then her body language what her wish was. So her wish carries with it that responsibility and that weight of that man's life and dreams and goals and everything. And so to make it not worthwhile and not, but it's like she's smarter than him in that
Yeah.
regard. She knows where the value is already and he doesn't see it. He's chasing the dream. And while the dream is totally valid, who's to say that he wouldn't have died in an oil tanker explosion
Yeah.
or on a safari or whatever? Like, who's to say he wouldn't have like fallen into a crevice in a glacier, exploring the world? So there's that element of it too, where it's like, okay, yeah, like it's great to have these ideas, but you got to be able to see what's in front of you. And Mary is the one who can do that.
Yeah, I think after the dance, when they're walking back soaking wet, and they have that whole exchange, which is a lot of fun. Um,
Mhm.
and then you
I love when the old man interrupts them on the
yeah,
porch, like, why don't you kiss her?
Yeah.
and I like that compared to when he says to Violet, "Hey, let's go for a walk in the field," and he lays out this whole ideal night for him, and she's like, "What, are you crazy?"
Hmm.
And then the town kind of laughs at him, but the only person that wouldn't laugh at him would be Mary. And that's when you kind of know that they kind of belong together. And then you could fight it as much as you want to, but that's where you're headed, pal. The
Mhm.
other thing I like about it is, some people might take at face value, oh, he's George is going to kill himself because he just had enough with life. It's beating him down, and it's too much for him, and now he's in a jam and whatever. The other side of that coin is he's going to kill himself to save his family. Like, he's worth more money dead than he is alive. He's not going to get that money once he kills himself. So even in his weakest, lowest, darkest moment, he's still thinking about other people. And I think that's an
Mhm.
impressive thing to think about, because some people, like I said, at face value, will say, "Oh, he's going to kill himself," and because when you hear a synopsis of the movie, "Oh, he's guy's gonna, he has a bad life, he's going to kill himself," and then the angel convinces him, it's like, well, you kind of just coasting past a couple things there. So I think that's
Yeah.
still something to be said in George's credit. Is like, even in that worst, in that darkest hour, he's still like, how can I do what's best for everybody else except for myself?
Yeah, it's just so inherent in his character. He is, like, constantly giving back to help other people, and then that's like, it's that old saying, like, you reap what you sow.
Hmm.
And, you whatever you put out, you get back, and so that's kind of a theme of the film. I was thinking while you were talking, I think the part that gets me every time is when he goes to his brother's grave.
Hmm.
That's the point of no return for me emotionally, where it's like, "Oh, shit.
Hmm.
They set this up at the very beginning." Like, the first thing you see of this story is that moment when he saves his brother, and then, like, the ripple effect
Yeah.
of that event alone
Hmm.
is what saves all the guys on that fighter
Yeah.
and gets his brother. Yeah, his brother, like, wins the award, and it's like, "Oh, yeah, great, good for him," but it's like, no, like, George did that.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
"What?"
Yeah. I listen, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that as I'm watching this, I couldn't help but think of Back to the Future Part 2, and, now I realize the influence that this movie has had on that movie. When Marty's walking through Hill Valley, I mean, it's like when George
Mhm.
walks through Potterville. Like, what did Potter
Yep.
do to this place? It's crazy. When he goes to George McFly's, grave, I was like, "Oh, I didn't," like, didn't realize that It's a Wonderful Life had such a profound impact on Back to the Future Part 2.
Mm.
The deeper stuff I find to be like, I love the middle of that movie, more as I get
Mhm.
older than I, because as a kid, like, "Yeah, the hoverboards, because that's awesome." But then
Mhm.
you grow up a bit, and in the middle of that movie is really some good stuff, and it's some of the darker stuff. It's kinda like it's the Empire Strikes Back, right, of the trilogy. That's what makes that movie work. That's what makes these other movies work. It's good relationships and good writing when you really deeply care about the character, or characters. That's when you've got the audience. They can't break the hold.
I feel like we need to talk about Mr. Potter here for a moment because, man, he is such
Yeah.
he is like the embodiment of everything that is legitimately, like, wrong with
Mhm.
humanity, poured into one vessel. When you think about, like, any villain that has come after him, you see a sliver of Mr. Potter in there, or a shadow. And of course, he is built out of Ebenezer
Yeah.
Scrooge. Every time I watch it and Mr. Potter comes along, it's like, it just makes your skin crawl, There's just all, and he's not, like, throughout, he's present throughout the film, but he's only in, like, a handful of scenes, but every one of those scenes is just reinforced conflict for George.
Yeah.
Right up to the very, very end. This movie was partially controversial because Potter didn't get his comeuppance at the end.
Right.
The justice served. And I think audience were also maybe
Yeah.
at the time a little, like, distracted by that point. It's like, I want to see that man get wheeled off a cliff, for everything he's put this town and this man through.
Part of me thought
So,
that his little wheelman, his assistant, was gonna come in with the envelope and be like, "Listen, he
mm,
did X, Y, and Z," and then, that's how he was gonna get it. But no, it didn't happen. I was like, "Oh." But then I realized as I'm watching it, like, he's not gonna get he's gonna get away with it. There's gonna be no repercussions. But then I realized at the end of it, he still loses.
Yeah.
George still wins. I think that's what it is, there doesn't have to be, Potter's already lost, and he knows he can't beat George Bailey. And
No.
this is his best attempt, and he still can't get the job done. And I think that's what that means. The good in people will always prevail over the evil in people, and I think that's the overall message for that part of it.
Yeah, I feel it's more realistic that we don't talk about Potter at the end. I liked it actually, because in real life, when someone hurts you, sometimes you can get rid of it, but you don't hear of it anymore, of him or her. But as long as you feel better, it's the most important thing. And I think that the message of the movie, because all the movie, George sacrificed himself for outside reasons. And at the end, it's his moment, So we don't care about Potter anymore. It's him, It's his family. People come to him to help him, and that's the only thing you want to see, actually.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did have an ending where Clarence confronted Potter at the end, but I don't think it's necessary. I feel like again, yeah, like we've just said, the story is about George, and this is his moment, and Potter still loses.
Yeah.
Like that's we don't need to necessarily see Potter get what's coming to him because we see George get what's coming to him, and I think that's the stronger point to end on. So where does this film rank for you guys now as a holiday film or a holiday experience?
Probably gonna go, I'd say top 10 of all time. The nuances of that list in my brain haven't settled yet. I'd have to figure that out, but I'd say definitely upper echelon of all the holiday offerings that are out there.
And for me, I would say that this movie is more a good feeling movie than a holiday movie for me. American Christmas movies for me, it's more like a woman from the city lost in the countryside, and she falls in love with the sexiest handyman in the area. So it's really not a Christmas movie
That
for
that's
me.
that's every Hallmark movie ever made. Just
Yeah, exactly. That's what we have all the afternoon right now in France. So, yeah, it's not a Christmas movie. Definitely, it's a feel good movie, And yeah, it's one of the best feel good movie I have ever seen. Sorry, I've ever seen. So yeah, I would say 8 on 10. Something like that. It's a really good movie.
It's a Christmas movie in the sense that it partially takes place at Christmas time, but a big part of the story takes place throughout the year. And so that was one thing that also really stuck out to me the first time I watched it. It was like, wow, this is like kind of a Christmas movie. I mean, it takes place, yeah, the climax and everything happens on Christmas, but the story itself and the film itself is throughout the year at different times and different years. It takes place over a large period of time, and that period of American history before World War II and like through the Great Depression and then through World War II, like right up to that present day when the film was made. And it's like, wow, yeah, that's kind of a snapshot of American history as well. So I don't necessarily think that you need to watch this movie around the holidays to enjoy it. I feel like it's one of those ones that can deliver at any given moment. It will give you whatever you want to get out of the film. I think it can deliver it at any point in time. On that note, I think that'll about do it for us this week. So again, VHS selections come out on Thursdays. We'll be talking about another one next week during our podcast. So be sure to check out the YouTube channel and subscribe. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think, and we'll try to incorporate it. If you guys have any questions, we'd love to hear them as well. And you can catch Steve over at Steve's Pop Culture Corner on Instagram. I'm sure he's going to be posting a lot of really exceptional Christmas picks and toy picks this coming month. And Anne and I are, of course, over on Letterboxd, so you can see what we've been watching and what we think over there. Until next time, I'm Peter O'Brien, along with Steve and Anne, saying Happy Holidays.